Hi, I'm Randy Robison. Welcome to Life Today TV, a special digital edition. And if you're like me, maybe you have kids, or maybe you're one of these kids in college. I'm just all over the college map with my kids right now. And you know what would have helped me years ago? My guest, Chris Brown. Good to have you, Chris.
Oh, I'm glad to be here.
So kind of talk to that crowd that maybe is in college, my kids.
Yeah.
Just take my kids and teach them what I have failed to teach them. Because I'm sure there's some things in there that they need to hear. Because, you know, especially kids getting out of school right now, having a hard time finding a job.
Yeah.
You know, college debt. I mean, how do you best navigate this whole thing?
Yeah, well, the average student that graduates from college is graduating with $33,000 in student loans. That's how they're starting their adult life.
I'm guessing that's probably a bad way to start.
Yes, it is actually.
Okay.
I would strongly recommend folks to stay in state because once you go across that state line, you're looking at about an $18,000 difference on an average college.
Per year?
It's per year, yes,
yeah,
per year.
I'm looking at about 13,000.
Yeah, it's about 9 versus about 27. So it's a big difference. So 9 a year. And then once you stay in state, because you don't want to choose a college based on a mascot. Like, oh, the mascot's pretty, and pay $30,000 a year for the mascot. Right. That's crazy. So stay in state. Try to do community college the first 2 years. Yep. Because the first 2 years doesn't really matter on your resume. So let's pay very little money.
It's a whole lot less. I speak from experience with one of my sons. Yeah. It is a whole lot less. And if you do it right, it transfers.
Of course. And make sure you do it right. You talk to the guidance counselor and all those kind of things. And here's the deal. Work through college. It's not going to hurt you. It's not child abuse. And I would encourage you, they should be carrying around a backpack and a spatula. They should be carrying around both. They make it happen. The research comes back and it says that those who work during college actually have a higher GPA. Because it turns out that junior, when he's not working, he's not studying. Yeah. He's just really not. And so, I hope that doesn't, frustrate our listeners and our watchers today, our viewers, but that's the deal. Like, work, it's okay. Right. Stay at home for a little while if you want, as long as that's a healthy relationship. Right. But those would be some of the high recommendations, that don't take out student loans, whatever it takes.
Personal question that everyone else just gets to hear the answer to. So some schools require a student to live on campus their first year. Yeah. I get that. It's expensive. Yes. Especially the bigger state schools. Yeah. And then you go rent. Yeah. You go throw away money for the next 3 years. Uh-huh. Does it make any sense to look at buying a property in that college town, maybe a 2 or 3 bedroom, to where the roommates cover basically the cost of your student? Is that realistic? Well, if you look at buying a home and you look at the amortization schedule on a home, those first couple of years, you're really not paying any principal anyway. Yeah. You're paying all interest. You're throwing that money away anyway. And if you're just buying it for the college years, right, then you've got the acquisition cost, you've got the selling cost for a couple of years, and you're probably buying a home that's outside of your local region. That's the reason why you need a home. Right. And I would never recommend that anybody has a, quote, rental house or investment home outside of their local expertise. So you wouldn't know anything about social barriers or any kind of weird dynamics or variances or any kind of traffic patterns. You'd just be buying blindly, and I wouldn't recommend that. So I know it's hard to throw away money. I know it's hard, but you'd be throwing away money too if you bought it, and you'd have the high risk of having to sell it. What if the economy goes down and you've got this big burden? And it would be another purchase on top of your primary home, which is not something that you're really wanting to do either. It strains your credit and your borrowing ability for maybe other things as well. Yes. And I'm from the school of thought that the credit score, don't feel bondage to credit score, because they're really, if you look at a credit score and what makes up a credit score, and this is good news for our college students and our younger folks, is that it is just how well you play kissy face with the bank score is what it means. It's how much debt you have, how long your debt's been there, how much new debt do you have, how good are you at debt? And the way that's figured tells you how much. Here's the deal. Interest received is a reward. Interest paid is a penalty, period. And we want to be on the right side of interest. So we want to have a cash-only kind of feel all the way through adulthood. Don't fall into that victim of like, I've got to have a good credit score. The times in my life where I had the highest financial net worth, I had the lowest credit score. Interesting. The times where I had the highest credit score, I had the lowest financial net worth. So it is not an indicator of success.
It's an indicator of how much debt you have.
It sounds like it's almost like a target for the banks of this guy we can bleed more money out of.
Pretty much. It's almost pretty much the opposite.
So I got my son a credit card, and right now we're putting some basic stuff on it, some of his school expenses, and we're paying it off every month except for $10. And I was told by the banking industry that this is the way to do it, because you don't pay a lot in interest that way, but you build credit by not paying it off, which I had to wrap my mind around, because I'm always like, yeah, pay off the credit card, right? But that gets you 0 on the credit score. Yeah. And the reason we're doing that is to put him in a position to be able to buy a home when he graduates. Right. He needs a credit score. Is that good advice in your opinion?
I'm really glad you asked that, because you don't need a credit score to buy a home. I know that's a shocker for everybody. You don't. You actually go to this thing called manual underwriting. You go to a mortgage office that actually does that. They don't put you through a computer screen and they put out some number and say you qualify for X amount of money. They actually sit down and they look at your assets and they look at your liabilities and they look at your income. Like, this person we will loan this amount of money to. It's called manual underwriting.
Not all banks will do that.
No, not all banks will not. You have to find one that does it, but you're going to be very glad that you did, because you do not want to fall victim to the credit card. So here's the deal with the credit card. Folks are like, I pay it off every month, right? You hear that all the time. Of course, this is a good example of it. Folks who use plastic regularly spend 22% more than those who don't.
Because it's easy.
Because it's easy. You don't feel it. You don't feel the transaction. Do you want fries with that? Sure, right? 22% more. So you've got 2 different ways of thinking. You've got golf and you've got basketball. Basketball is score as many points as possible, and golf is to have the least amount of strokes as possible. When you are playing the point game on a credit card, what you're doing is trying to spend more so you can get these points. And if you look at it, you spend $1,000 to save $10 in points, and it really doesn't make any sense. When it comes to travel, the travel companies do that. I do my points through Southwest. I do my points through Delta. I do my points through them. So I don't necessarily need the credit cards. I have gone 20 years without a credit card. My entire adult life, never owned one, and I've been just fine. Wow. And at Ramsey Solutions, we have 544 staff people. We run a big, huge operation, not one credit card.
Really?
It's not needed.
Yeah, so I forgot to mention you work with Dave Ramsey.
Yep, I work with Dave Ramsey at Ramsey Solutions.
Yeah. Wow, okay, what else do we need to know for that kid that's out of college maybe now?
Right.
They're trying to build some equity, they're renting an apartment. What's some kind of basic guidelines they can do to put themselves in a strong financial position?
Yeah, wherever they're at in their journey, doesn't matter if they're 18, if they're 16, doesn't matter if they're 60, regardless, everyone needs to have a plan. You've got to have a plan. You got to know where you're going. Where there is no vision, the people perish. Very plain and simple. And another version says people cast off restraint. And that's exactly what we're doing. The impulse buying, you're on the car lot, you're in the shopping mall. So every month, before the month begins, write down where every dollar is going to go. Every dollar needs to have an assignment. Every dollar needs to have a destination, on paper, on purpose. Zig Ziglar says if you aim at nothing, you hit it every time. And many of us are living our months that way. And so we don't need to feel condemned about it. There's hope, but it really is, if you want a raise, the best way to have a raise is to do a budget. You'll realize, John Maxwell says that a budget's telling your money where it should go instead of wondering where it went. Andy Stanley says that everybody needs to be a knowing where their money is a-going. But by far, the best advice I can give you is have a plan. Because many people are like, oh shoot, where'd my money go?
Yeah, sure.
And when you do that, you're like, oh man, I spent $400 on restaurants last month, $1,600, whatever it may be. Right. Restaurants is usually a big one. That car payment is probably killing you. Just another fact here, $486 is the average car payment.
Wow. I must be doing something right.
If you were to take that $486 and put it in a growth stock mutual fund from age 25 to 65 at 12% interest, you're looking at $5.8 million.
What are you going to drive?
I hope you like your car.
What are you going to drive? Are you just saying maybe split the difference and not spend so much on a car?
Yes, I'm saying that if you're driving around in your car, you're driving around, and I hope you like it, because you're driving around 5 months. And they say, oh, okay, $486, I don't have that. $100. People say, I don't have $100. I say, oh, really, latte breath? Really?
Right.
But $100 from age 25 to 65 in a growth stock mutual fund, you're looking at $1.7 million. $100 a month. And so you got to think through the opportunity cost. When you're doing that budget, where's the money going towards, and is it the right place?
Yeah, great stuff. And just a tip of the iceberg, you can get more Chris Brown's True Stewardship. What's your website? You've got some videos that people can watch.
Yes, at stewardship.com. And of course, we archive all of our radio episodes. So we're in 20 markets all over the country. Then we have a podcast that's tied to it on iTunes.
Okay.
Chris Brown's True Stewardship. And you can find everything at stewardship.com.
Wonderful.
Yep.
Appreciate your time. Appreciate your insight. If you want to hear more, you can hear more from Chris on Life Today, and you can watch that at lifetoday.org. Hey, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Hit the subscribe button because we want to let you know about all the great videos from Life Today.